Alright, how are we? I was eating schnitzel, and I spontaneously said to myself, I'm gonna record this. And this, in case you haven't noticed by all of this, is a Jethro Tull album tier list. Now I'm gonna go right off the bat and say, some of these albums are epic. Some of these albums are not epic. And this isn't even relative to just Jethro Tull, this is in total. I genuinely love some of these albums, and I genuinely hate some of these albums. So, without any further ado, we're just gonna hop into this. We're gonna start, we're gonna just go in this order, because it's easier. And first off, we got A. It's just called A. Now, I haven't listened to this album a whole lot. I think I've only listened to it once or twice through, but from what I remember, I need to create a new tier for it. And yes, it's not even that low, but I just feel like C minus, that'll do. We need a C minus in there, because C minus is important, and A gets right in the C minus. It's a very forgettable album. It's just not very good. I don't see myself ever listening to it for fun. I don't see myself wanting to gouge my eyes out whenever I listen to it, because that's a thing apparently. It's meh. It's very, very meh. C minus at best. Aqualung. This is a bro moment. This album. I'm going to talk about this album because I love this album. This was my first experience with Jethro Tull, and it was a good experience. Wind Up was one of those songs which I listened to on repeat for about 2 hours after I heard it. I was like, oh shit, this is a good song. And it's a good song, it's a great song. And not just Wind Up. Almost every single song on this album is just amazing. It truly is deserving of an S tier or bro moment ranking. You know, other great songs are the title track, Cross-Eyed Mary, Cheap Day Return, it's just one of those in-between tracks, which is alright. Mother Goose is one of the lesser tracks. Wandering Aloud, and Up To Me are, you know, very, like, those two are very similar to Cheap Day Return, even though Up To Me isn't a kind of in-between track. I've forgotten the word for it, so I'm just going to call it in-between track. It's not anything special, but you know, My God, like, probably the best song on the album. Big flute solo, hell yeah. Just cool guitar solo, really cool kind of heavy distorted guitars. I just want to point out on Mother Goose, when the electric guitar comes in, that's hella cool. Outside of that, My God's hella good. Hymn 43 is really good. Slipstream, not too big on, but A. Locomotive Breath is one of their more popular songs, but once again, I'm not too big on it. It's a good song, don't get me wrong, but not nearly as good as some of the other songs. And then we got Wind Up and Lick Your Fingers Clean. Wind Up, I've already said, is great. Lick Your Fingers Clean, again. But very deserving of an S tier ranking. Next we have Benefit. Benefit's good. Like, it's not the best, it's not nearly their best album, but it has got some good moments on it. And I remember listening through it and thinking, this isn't bad. It's not bad. Oh, this is okay. But it never really was like, oh shit, this is good. So, you know what, it's just gonna happen. I'm gonna keep creating new tier for every single album at this rate, but, it's not quite B minus standard, but C plus. Benefit, it's good. Broadsword and the Beast. One of those albums I once again haven't listened to a whole lot. The title-ish track, it's called Broadsword. I quite like that song, but I don't know. I want to put him in between C and C+, but I don't want to keep on making new tiers. But it's not quite as good as Benefit, in my opinion. So I'm just gonna go with that. It's good. It's not bad by any stretch, but it's not. It's better than A, not quite as good as Benefit, so it gets in between. Catfish Rising is very, very forgettable. In fact, I had to re-listen to this album just to remember it before making this video. And so, A. It's about as good as A, maybe a bit worse. Like, it's not a bad album, it's just so damn forgettable. Yeah, it's not really worth it. Yeah, it's not the worst album by any stretch either. Anyhow, Crest of a Knave. It's an album, I guess. I once again forgot this one existed. It's just very, very forgettable. After really after Heavy Horses, I think it was, Jethro Tull just stopped making good music on the whole. And this album's a perfect representation of that. They are a very C- band after that point in time. After that, or before that rather, way up here. But yeah, jtull.com, we can put you right there. It's a really bad album. I don't like it whatsoever. It's just not good. Like, oh, okay, you know what? I can't put it there because there's another album that has to go there, and this one has at least one good track on it, which is I forget if it's Hot Mango Flush or Mango Surprise. It's one of the two, but I really don't like it. Oh, there we go. I really don't like this. I really, really don't like it. Except for like a couple of tracks on it once again. Anyhow, next album, Heavy Horses. I'm gonna give it a solid A tier because I like this album. I really like it. Title track, so good. I love it. That's not the only good song on it, but that's definitely the most memorable. None of the songs after that or outside of that are quite as. I mean, Acres Wild I also really like, but I mean, No Lullaby is also good. Like, there are lots of really good tracks on this. But yeah, so it's just a very good album. Very, very much an 18. Not quite as good as Aqualung. Aqualung is really in a way the pinnacle of Jethro Tull. But yeah, it's still a very solid album, and I can recommend it. Like, I don't recommend any of these albums. But yeah, I do definitely recommend really all. I mean, even those two I could recommend if you really like this other stuff. But yeah, Rock Island. Yeah, once again, it fits right around the forgettable albums, but it just didn't have any memorable moments. Like, these albums, I even remembered a couple of tunes from them. This one, I just don't. It's just not good. Minstrel in the Gallery is one of their older albums once again. I believe it was in this, yeah, so 1975. Good album. Back in their golden days. It's not like amazing, and I'm loath to put it in anything better than a B. I would like to give it an A, but B is still really good. Like, just for reference, a C is like, oh shit, a C is like baseline good. If it gets C, it's a good album. Like, that's a 5 out of 10, you know, and 5 out of 10 might seem low, but in all honesty, C is good. Like, a C is a pass. Like, if a band makes a C ranked album, I'll be like, okay, it's a good enough album, I'll take it. But below a C is like, gets actually bad. Like, this is something I wouldn't recommend. I'd disrecommend, I don't know, whatever the hell that word is. I would say don't listen to these. I would warn against listening to these ones, but, like, you know, these are like amazing albums. Like, that's 10 out of 10 material right here. 9.5 to 10 out of 10, right? This is like 9 out of 10 plus. This is, you know, still very, very good. But yeah, so That's just some quick reference. Like, just because I give it a B, it might seem a bit lower in contrast to some things, and it might seem higher in contrast to this album, considering how low some of these other albums have ranked. But we're just getting into the good stuff now. So, Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die. Once again, it's got some good moments on it, but it's also got some very forgettable, boring, just typical, you've already heard it before, but here you go again moments. And I don't know which one to put it with, but in all honesty, it's probably just as good as Minstrel in the Gallery. Which kind of makes me think I need to put Benefit a bit higher, or maybe I need to put Minstrel in the Gallery a bit lower. They're probably about B- together, so I might need... Nah, I'll just leave it as B, because anyhow, don't need 100,000 different tiers. But it's got some very, like, fun, I guess you could say. Like, the title track's good. Once again, it's not, like, the most amazing song ever. Quiz Kid, I enjoy. And there's just a few fun tracks on it. It's just a fun album, and that's all you can ask for sometimes. A lot of people love this album. I don't. It's not that bad, but it really gets a C+. It's on the same level as Benefit for me. I just think it's just not Jethro Tull, I guess, in a way. I don't know, I just don't like it nearly as much as Thick as a Brick, which was a very similar album in concept at least, but in execution, this follow-up was just not even half as good. So From Roots to Branches, once again, another fun album, and it's got some cool moments on it. The title track is one of them, definitely. But overall, it's just got some cool songs on it. It's also a slightly longer album, clocking in at just over an hour, I believe. And so I would give it... It's getting a lot of C+, but, you know, it's not... Nah, I'm going to give it a B. I'm going to give it a... It's, like, right between those two. And I don't want to make B- because I don't need 1,000... You know, okay, I'm going to do it. This is, like, the true definition of a B- album. So I'm going to... B-. Still in the gallery. Yep. B-. I'm just put this one down with it because it's about the same for me. It's a good album, but yeah, once again, they just made a whole lot of very forgettable stuff. It's also one of their more recent albums, but that doesn't make it any worse or any better. It just means it's cool, but very forgettable. Once again, songs from the Woods. I love it. Title track is like possibly my favorite Jethro Tull title intro track, but probably not. But it's really up there. So Songs from the Woods, I'd give an A. It's better than Minster in the Gallery. Maybe not quite as good as Heavy Horses, but it's good enough to be on the same level as it. But it's just it's another one of those very, very fun albums, and it's a bit long as well, but it's so much fun, and it's got good songs, and it was memorable. You know, I even get the opening vocal harmony stuck in my head from time to time, so great album. Stand Up, one of their very, very first albums, but not their best. It's not their worst either. Like, it's got some really good songs in it. Like A New Day Yesterday, Back to the Family, Bure, I'm not such a huge fan of, but hey, it's got some good stuff on it. But once again, does it have enough good stuff to hang with the cool kids up here? Or is it just a good album? It's just a good album to me. It was quite an old album, so 1969 is one of their first albums. I don't believe it was their first album. I should probably know this, shouldn't I? Come to think of it. But it's not bad in any way. Yeah, well, no, it wasn't their first album. I'm right. But it's not a bad album in any way. But on the other hand, Stormwatch is. These two albums are just as bad as one another. I don't really like it. It's just, I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't say don't listen to it. Unless this was to be your introduction to Jethro Tull. Then I would say don't listen to it. But anyhow, I digress. Let's move on. We don't need to talk about it much. Not fun whatsoever. It's just a very, very boring album. Not much substance to it. Not much kind of different done in a good way compared to their predecessor, Heavy Horses. Or any of the other albums before. It was just a boring album, really. And it's not bad. I mean, it's not good whatsoever. I wouldn't call it bad. I just call it subpar. Thick as a brick. What are we gonna do? So we're just gonna do this. And we're gonna call this. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a funny name, but it's not working. So I'm just gonna do Big Bruh. There you go. I'll just like. Do that. Big Bro. Thick as a Brick is an easy Big Bro. Because I love... Oh, crikey, here we go. Thick as a Brick isn't quite my favourite album of all time, but it's very high up there. It is close to my favourite album. It's probably my top 5 favourite albums. And even though I've listened to it probably upwards of 50 times... in the year of me knowing it, 2 years maybe, I just love it. This might have been my second Jethro Tull experience. I would probably say that Songs from the Woods would be my second experience, but this would be a close third. And I loved it. I just loved it, and I still love it, and I listen to it regularly, and it's great, and it's long for a song. It's great though, I really like it. There's a reason I had Who's Jethro Tull here. I don't want to spend too long on this album because I really thoroughly dislike it. I genuinely would say just don't listen to it. It's just bad. It's just very, very bad.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer every night.
This is why. That's why I don't like this album. That's the first track. That's what you're greeted with when you commit yourself to participating into a listening of this album. It's not pleasant. It's not enjoyable. There's not a track on this album that I like. It's below F tier. In fact, I'm gonna create F tier just so you know that it's below F tier. It's not good at all. I genuinely thoroughly dislike it. This was Dharma for One is awesome. It's a cool album. And it's an A tier. All of these albums, so what, these 7 albums, are really cool albums, and I thoroughly like them. It's not like a masterpiece like these two are, but it's also by no means anything short of very... You know, it's very impressive, because I believe this was their first album. If it's not, then I should probably do my history homework. But it's just really, really fun. A Song for Jeffrey I also really like. My Sunday Feeling opening track, it's cool. there's not a moment on this album where I was like, oh, this is boring, I don't want to listen to this. But there aren't, and there are moments, rather, where I'm like, oh my god, this song's so good. And so I think that gains it an A place. Aqualung is like, almost the entire album is like, oh my god, this is so good. And there are only a few, like, this is okay moments. But overall, like, it's such a great album, and I can 100% recommend it. I would say if you're going to start listening to Tull, listen to Aqualung first, followed by Thick as a Brick, then probably Heavy Horses, then This Was, then Songs from the Wood, then Stand Up, then Minstrel, then pretty much just go down as this is. You might like this one a bit more than I did, but I'm just not a huge fan of it. It's still a good album and all, but just not quite as good as a lot of their other stuff. So now that brings us to our final album, Under Wraps. Now this album, I considered putting it down here when I first was going over what my possible rankings for this list would be, but it's not quite bad enough to be down here, but I couldn't put it anything better than a D. I'm being nice to it by giving it a D, but once again, a lot of these albums, so this one I remember because of how bad it was. This one I remember because it had one cool song in it and the rest was awful. These 6, I just forget. They're very unmemorable albums. Very boring, very... Like, these ones at least have a couple of tracks that are like, this is kind of cool. These ones just don't. These ones are only consisting of tracks which are like meh, boring, unmemorable, forgettable. Don't really want to listen to this anymore because it's not really that good. Not worth my time. That's just Under Wraps in a nutshell compared to like these other albums. But that kind of brings us to the end of the tier list. I didn't do any of their live stuff. I didn't do like their Christmas album or whatever. I only did like their main studio albums. I might do some more of these. I'll probably do a King Crimson one, but I want to re-listen to a lot of their stuff. Same with King Gizzard. I'll also possibly do like a Radiohead one, but I might do I'll probably do a Radiohead one as well. But I got a few more of these that I want to do with artists, and I also want to do some non-music related ones, or non-album related ones at least. I might even do an artist one with my Spotify library of artists. But that concludes this tier list. If anyone disagrees with Thick as a Brick as a big bro, then don't watch my YouTube channel anymore. See ya.